Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. This is one of the most shocking and cold-hearted stories that you will come across. A father of a state-level tennis champion, a 25-year-old young girl named Radhika Yadav, was shot dead by her father with 3 bullets from his licensed revolver. This was at point-blank range. It was inside their house. Her mother was on a floor above. Now the police are saying that the father felt taunted by his friends and his relatives, that he was not earning anything for the family and the only earning member of the family was his daughter, and that he was living off his daughter's earnings. But is that even a plausible explanation? Does it even come close to a rational explanation for why someone would shoot their own girl dead? What sort of sick, deranged individual would kill his own daughter just because he felt slighted? We'll try and delve a little deeper. Is this all that we know about the story, or have the police cooked up something that is convenient so that they can pass it off? They managed to get 1 day custody. They asked for 2, but why ask for just 1 or 2 days custody? Is there everything that we know about this case that is now above board, or is there more that we don't know which needs further probing? Because it is absolutely unimaginable that a parent would go to the lengths of killing their own child. The last time we had a similar case, the entire nation was completely flabbergasted. That was the Arushi case. Eventually, it ended up with the jailing of both the parents of Arushi. We do not want another Arushi case developing in India. That's the last thing that anybody wants. But the question begs to be asked. Why would a father, why would a parent go to such a depraved extreme that he would pump in 3 bullets into the child that he helped bring to this world? I want to first go across and bring you a sense of what the police are saying. They managed to recreate the crime scene. They're trying to ascertain the facts, and we're using artificial intelligence, AI, to try and best paint a picture as close as we can to what exactly was the sequence of events that led to this unfortunate and terrible tragedy involving the murder of a young woman. Radhika Yadav's mother, she claims, according to the statement that she's given to the police, that she was not on the first floor. That's where the crime happened. She was apparently on the 2nd floor of their house. It's a 2-story building. It's in a place called Sushant Lok, which is a very plush area. A lot of upper middle class people live there. It's in sector 57 in Gurugram, which is of course in the National Capital Territory. Radhika was in the kitchen. That's in the 1st floor of the 2-story building. She was apparently at that time cooking for her mother. Her mother says, and she has said this in her statement to the police, that she was unwell and was not in a position to cook for herself, and therefore Radhika was sort of cooking for her mother on the 1st floor in the kitchen. While she was cooking, her father reportedly walks in to the house, to the 1st floor of the house, walks up to the kitchen, and then pumps in 3 bullets into his daughter. 5 shots in all were fired, is what the police are claiming, out of which 1 bullet was lodged in her neck and 2 other bullets were lodged in her back. So basically what the police are saying is that the father did not even do this act facing his daughter. He shot her from behind. There was also an exit wound that the police are saying. So there were 4 recorded, bullet marks as well as casings that have been recovered. The 5th one is still not fully explained. There was an exit wound that's been shown by the police in the postmortem report. The doctors have recovered 3 particular bullet wounds in her body. Now, hearing the gunshots, Radhika's mother, this is further in her statement to the police, she claims herself as well as her uncle, that's her father's brother, rushed down to the 1st floor and found Radhika lying in a pool of blood. I want to first play out some of the reactions by the neighbors, the guard, the people who were there around the vicinity. But first, let's tell you what the police are saying. What the police are saying about this case, which has really caught everyone's attention, and everyone is really sort of grappling for why a father would do this to his own daughter. But first, let's listen in to some reactions coming in.
फिलहाल तक जो इंटरोगेशन हुई है उसमें उनके द्वारा बताया गया है कि उनकी लड़की जो राधिका थी, जिनकी उसके द्वारा गोली मारकर हत्या कर दी गई थी, वो एक टेनिस एकेडमी यहाँ गुरुग्राम में चलाती थी। जिस टेनिस एकेडमी को चलाने को लेकर के वो काफ़ी नाराज थे और उनके द्वारा बार बार बोला गया था कि इस एकेडमी को बंद कर दो। उनके द्वारा राधिका द्वारा इस बात को न मानने के ऊपर वो काफी गुस्सा उससे थे और उनके द्वारा 3 गोलियां मार करके उसकी हत्या करके इस वारदात को अंजाम दिया गया। अभी तक की जो इन्वेस्टिगेशन है उससे मालूम हुआ है कि सोसाइटी के कुछ लोगों के द्वारा उनको कुछ ताने दिए गए थे और इसी वजह से वो नहीं चाहते थे कि उनकी लड़की एकेडमी को चलाए और इस एकेडमी को बंद कर दे, परंतु उन्होंने बात नहीं मानी और इसी नाराजगी के तहत उन्होंने कार्रवाई की।
So that explanation by the Gurugram police PRO, I don't get it. I find myself difficult to believe that, because the police's explanation is the father was very upset that Radhika was running this tennis academy. He wanted her to shut that tennis academy down. She was insistent that she wanted to continue with it, and there was this altercation between father and daughter, and the father shot the daughter. I mean, it just doesn't add up. There are so many things that don't quite add up in this story, and we want to ask those questions because those questions are pertinent. Number one, who discovered Radhika's body lying in a pool of blood? There are multiple claims. Her brother says he was the one who first found the body. The uncle, who's the father's brother, he says that he's the one who first found the body. He's the one who's the complainant. He's the one who registered the FIR. He's the one who went to the police. And then there is the mother's version as well. There's also the version which says that her sibling, her brother, was not at home. And in fact, he was in some other property belonging to the family. He was not at this particular property where the crime happened. So again, that's the second version that's been put out. Security guard who was posted at the house that is adjacent to the Yadav residence claims that it was Radhika's brother who rushed inside the house upon hearing the gunshots. Radhika's mother says, and she's been saying to the police, that she was on the second floor. She didn't know what was going on in the first floor. She only rushed down after she heard the gunshots, that she had fever, she was resting. This was in her room in the second floor. The mother claims that she was in the room. The eyewitnesses claim that she was outside. Again, there are reports that people around the area have made that there was some kind of altercation, some kind of argument between Radhika's parents, or whether that was between Radhika's mother and her brother or brother-in-law. We don't know. There was some kind of altercation. People heard loud sounds before the gunfire happened. Is the Gurugram police in a rush to see this as an open and shut case? You heard from the police PRO there saying, oh, the father didn't like the fact that the daughter was running a tennis academy. Is that even a logical reason for why a father would go to the extent of killing his own daughter? Is that perhaps why the Gurugram police did not seek a longer custody of the accused? They asked for 2 days to the court. The court granted them 1 day. So this man, Deepak Yadav, the father of Radhika Yadav, will be in custody for 1 day. He'll have to be produced again in court tomorrow. There's also this sort of controversy around was she having some kind of a relationship? There's this video that she had shot with an influencer. That boy, of course, has spoken to CNN News 18 as well. So lots of versions which seem to suggest, again, that her father and some members of her family were angry and upset over the fact that she was featured in this music video. And apparently this video had some intimate scenes that she had shot along with this influencer named Inam. We spoke to that particular co-star of hers. His name is Inam, as I said. This was in the music video. This is what he had to say, and then I'll go across to our guests.
बहुत ही अत्यंत ही दुखद घटना है। परिणाम ये भी बताइए कि जब ये वीडियो हो गया, किस तरह का सक्सेस मिला आप लोगों को? कहा जाता है कि सोशल मीडिया पे इसकी काफ़ी चर्चा हुई थी। आपका संपर्क उसके गाने के रिलीज होने के बाद भी कुछ हुआ, कुछ एक्सचेंजेस हुए थे आपके बीच में इस गाने के म्यूजिक वीडियो के सक्सेस को लेके, और सोशल मीडिया पे कैसा रिस्पॉन्स मिल रहा था आप लोगों को?
म्यूजिक वीडियो देखिए कोई सक्सेस नहीं मिला था, बिकॉज राधिका भी न्यू है और मैंने काफी प्रोजेक्ट किए हुए हैं, पर फिर भी मैं ये नहीं बोलूंगा कि मुझे लोग बहुत जानते हैं। एज एन एक्टर मुझे जानते हैं लोग, मैंने एज एन एक्टर काफी काम किया हुआ है टीवी पर, बट एज अ सिंगर नहीं जानते।
पर आप दोनों ने अपने प्रोफाइल से तो जरूर शेयर किया होगा, आपके परिवारजनों ने शेयर किया होगा, आपके दोस्तों ने भी शेयर किया होगा।
हाँ, मैं बात पूरी करना चाहूंगा। ये गाना जब रिलीज हुआ तो इस पे कोई व्यूज नहीं थे, कोई लिसनिंग स्पॉटिफाई या स्ट्रीमिंग प्लेटफॉर्म पे नहीं थी। देन मुझे लगा कि हमने थोड़ा भी जो अमाउंट लगाया है वो बर्बाद कर दिया, गाना बर्बाद हो गया। हमारा ये सोचना था। तो मैं क्या करता हूँ, अगर मैंने कोई गाना कभी नहीं चलता है, जैसे मेरे कुछ गाने सुम्बुल के साथ में आए हैं, साहिल खान उनके साथ में आए, ऐसे गाने आते हैं, तो एक तरीका ये भी होता है कि गाने को डिलीट मार दें और उसको अगेन री रिलीज करूँ किसी और नोन एक्टर के साथ में, जहाँ मैं भी एक्टिंग नहीं करूँ। बिकॉज जो मैं गाने में दिख रहा हूँ तो वो मुझे भी अच्छा नहीं लग रहा था, मतलब मैं अपना लुक पसंद नहीं कर रहा था। इस वजह से मैंने उस गाने को डिलीट भी किया था, अपने इंस्टाग्राम पर आर्काइव किया था, तो मैंने अभी ओपन कर दिया।
कैसा आपको लगा? राधिका को कैसा लग रहा था?
जब गाना रिलीज हुआ तो राधिका ने अपना अकाउंट डीएक्टिवेट कर दिया।
क्यों?
मुझे वहां नहीं दिख रहे। ये मुझे आज तक इसका जवाब नहीं पता।
All right, so many unanswered questions, and at the moot of it, like I said, we have to try and find out what is it that happened, and how can a father kill his own daughter? Rekha Sharma is a BJP MP and Rajya Sabha MP, former chairperson of the National Commission for Women. Ranjana Kumari, women's rights activist, is also joining us. Yashwardhan Azad is a former IPS officer. He's also joining us on the broadcast. Let me start with you, ma'am, Rekha Sharma. You know, the police version, I don't know, it doesn't seem entirely, you know, adding up for me, because the police are saying, oh, the father was upset that Radhika was running this tennis academy, he felt taunted, the relatives and friends used to taunt him saying, you know, you're living off your daughter's earnings. That is no reason for a father to, you know, shoot dead his own daughter, pump in 3 bullets into her neck and her back. I mean, it just seems unbelievable to me.
Zaka, really, this is a shocking, sad incident, and I too don't believe what police is saying. I think let them investigate the full matter and then only we can comment. But if what police is saying is true, this is really shocking, because we as parents raise our children to be independent, to earn money, to support the family, and this girl was doing everything what a parent want. But unfortunately, what now the police is saying that father killed because people were taunting him that she's been supported by the daughter. Let me tell you, the society is such that this can happen. The society can taunt you, but that is not the way a father can, you know, kill his daughter. So the reason is really not understandable, and I cannot understand why a father, on just a mere taunt of some people from the society, can kill the daughter. Let the police investigate first.
Okay.
And I think police need to work really hard to go into the truth, because there are so many versions. Uncle is
no,
saying
the
something
police
else.
have made it into like an open and
Wife is
shut
saying
case.
something
Even
else.
in the court today, they said we just need 2 days custody.
No, I think
they got 1 day custody. They are saying they even said that you know, the father has confessed. At this stage, I can't think of, you know, a case where the police are saying, oh, the father has confessed, and that's part of the FIR as well. I mean, it just seems too convenient to be open and shut like this.
See, yeah, so father may be confessing for saving someone else, or this confession, let me tell you, doesn't stand in the court. They have to come up with the solid reason for the murder.
Okay.
So they don't have anything. Have they matched the fingerprints? Have they got the some camera footings? So they have to find out many things to prove it that father killed it.
Okay,
and
let me go
even in
across
the
to
court, father will
Ms.
not say
Ranjana
that I
Kumari
killed.
as
Yeah.
well. You know, we have seen in Haryana certainly, you know, honor killings in the name of intercaste relationships or inter-religion relationships and so on and so forth. So far, you know, no such thing has come to the fore in the case of Radhika Yadav. It's just what the police are saying, that, you know, the father was upset that she was earning money and that she was running this academy. He wanted her to stop running the academy. She didn't do that, and therefore he was upset and he shot her dead. Do you buy the police version at all, ma'am?
Zaka, I don't think anybody will buy that version, because nobody, even you have your show in the panel, and he himself has been a senior police officer, he'll tell you about what it is. But there is absolutely no reason to believe what police is saying, because if it is only for running the academy that father invested money in, and also to make her a tennis player, father, as the story goes, has invested. He wanted to see her daughter to be a tennis player, then to run the academy, just because he didn't. At some point of time, people started taunting him about living on daughter's income, and then I think this is, and also the story somewhere is trying to drive everybody to believe that this was a murder out of rage. And that means that, then you don't need to do much. Then, and also quantum of punishment will be much less, I think, if I understand the law correctly. And also, the other thing is about, this is Haryana. This is, where girls have no agency till date. And these days, especially, there is a narrative going on
Okay.
in the country, and the narrative has been built like, women are becoming too smart, girls are becoming too smart, women are demanding dowry, they are in fact complaining fake about dowry, they are doing all kinds of stuff, the whole, and women murderer. Last month, you heard that whole story about a woman killing husband, and as if almost every woman in India has become murderer and killing the husband. So I think this whole narrative about girls and women becoming smart is what it is. And Haryana, definitely it has got to be, if investigation goes, a kind of honor killing.
Okay,
Honor
I want
means
to I want
this
to I want to ask Yashwardhan Azad this. Look, I don't want to jump the gun and say this is an honor killing because, like I said, I mean, we don't have any information about her having any kind of a relationship or whether the parents and the father were upset about it. We don't know. I mean, one speculation was around this co-star in a small music video that they had put out. We got that boy on camera. We got him on interview, and he said, he's not ever met with her or spoken to her after this video was shot. And the video anyway did not do very well. My point is, Yashwardhan Azad, I find it really hard to believe that a father would go to this length to kill a daughter for the reason that the police have said, which is that, he was unhappy that she was earning a livelihood and that she was running an academy and so on and so forth. It makes no sense.
Okay, let me answer you with 2 points. The first is that for the police and even for the law, the reasoning can be anything, but the hardcore evidence is the one through which you get the criminal. So in this particular case, 4 shots were fired from his gun and a revolver, whatever it was, because I've also read only press reports. The idea is to seize that revolver, see that the bullet markings are the same, and prove that he's the person, he's the accused. Now, the second part is, yes, I agree. I may agree with Ranjana that the second part could be an honor killing. But, Zaka, I have come across cases like this where in a fit of rage or in a fit of passion or in a fit of extreme anger or insult, killings have occurred. I mean, and these places are, these things are still happening in Madhya Pradesh from which was my Kada. In this particular case, I could think that it is a plausible argument that in a patriarchal society like this, which we have, and where a woman is doing so well, absolutely outstanding, there are the peers, there are the family members who get under pressure. Mind you, there are even relatives who get against you if you're doing very, very well. So in this case, that man was a builder. He was doing well. If you see the house, it looks pretty good to me.
I mean, Sushant Lok, Sector 57 is not a poor man's area. I mean, it's a fairly well-to-do, upper middle class, rich people's colony, really.
Yes. So this man, when he was doing well, and now that the daughter is doing so well, he's not earning and he's virtually eating off her in a place like Haryana, which is extremely patriarchal society. It could be that it happened in a rage, insult, maybe even the wife was taunting him. So I don't know, of course.
But, one second, Yashwardhan Azad, I don't know if you can see these pictures. Can we go to the other picture where the cops are bringing him? This one is outside the court, but where he's being brought into the police station with his face. You can see his face entirely. This, I think, was the first visual that we got. Because this one. You look at his face, I don't see any degree of remorse or regret. I don't see any emotion in that face of a man who just a few hours ago had shot dead his daughter. I mean, it beggars belief.
More the reason why this guy was planning it for some time, and he had completely hardened himself, and he was really out to get her because he felt that insult and self-incrimination. So I would not rule it out. Of course, as you say, we can't say it right now because the mens rea, the cause of the attack has to be, of course, explored by the police. But it's a terrible thing. But I can believe it, and especially in a place like Haryana or Punjab, where we have seen that these kinds of patriarchal attitudes are so rigid
Okay.
That killing. And so I agree with Ranjana on the second
So
part.
let me go back to Ms. Rekha Sharma on this. So what is, I mean, obviously this is cold-blooded murder. I mean, in the old IPC it would have been section 302. I don't know what the BNS section is. But the idea that you can kill your own flesh and blood, somebody you have brought into this world, you've taken care of, you've given that person an education for 25 years, your progeny, and you are killing them in cold blood because of some perceived insult or perceived slight. I mean, it's got to be more than just murder. It has to be more than just homicide. I mean, how does the law set an example if indeed the police version is true, and if indeed it is true that it's the father who killed his daughter for the reason that the police are saying he did?
Zaka, if it is true, he should be hanged. That is just very simple. But as you know, that police and the advocates will prove that it was out of anger and he was angry, and out of anger he did this. But I must say that he should be hanged. And this is not the first case in Haryana or in India, I can say, because society is such, and as everybody is saying, we have a patriarchal mindset where if women is doing well, she's been like a victim in the society. She should not work, she should sit at home because her father doesn't want her to work. She should not earn because her father or brother doesn't want to earn. So with this kind of mindset in the society, this is possible, or maybe, as everybody is saying, it is honor killing, but we don't have any proof yet.
But ma'am, can I ask you something? You know, the last case like this, which had the entire nation riveted in that sense, was the Arushi Talwar case. Again, we don't quite entirely know what happened on that night, but ultimately we have to go by the Supreme Court judgment, and the Supreme Court judgment found the father guilty. My point is, in this case, it's A, broad daylight, B, this whole reasoning put out by the police just doesn't add up. I mean, I know, look, these are the cases I mentioned because this has come to the public spotlight, and the media is talking about it and so on. Maybe there are other cases, of course, where parents are killing their own children. But I just find it so hard to wrap my head around. I mean, I have a 12-year-old daughter. I wouldn't let a thorn in her flesh. Forget about thinking about killing her or shooting her at close range.
Zaka, this is the society. But let me tell you, whether it was Arushi, they were from educated family, and this family also is educated. So we think that these honor killings and this kind of incident only happens in the villages where diktat of panchayat is there. But even in educated family, if people are behaving like this with their daughters, we have to sit back and think what is happening to the society. And we are saying that women are leading empowerment these days. So they are not only empowered, they are leading empowerment. And what kind of things are happening in reality, we really need to sit back and think about it.
Can I take that point further with Can I take that point further with Ranjana Kumari? Because I think that's a great point that Rekha Sharma has made. Well, we tend to think that, this doesn't happen in gated societies, this doesn't happen in plush apartment complexes and so on and so forth. If honor killings happen, it happens usually among poor people, where the panchayats have a sort of role to play, so on and so forth. But this is as plush as it gets. I mean, this is a very upper middle class, rich people's colony in Sushant Lok in Gurugram, and again the father has seemingly killed the daughter for some perceived slight. So this idea that education or wealth, or if you're up in the social pyramid, in the social hierarchy, your mindset will change, that's a complete misnomer.
Well, Zaka, this is clearly femicide. She is killed because she is a girl. So, agency by a girl, or her own capacity to earn money, to be able to say no to whatever father said, becomes the reason for her getting killed. And so many women get killed because they are women, and if men feel threatened because they are becoming stronger, they are becoming more self-sufficient, then certainly there is a threat. And that's what patriarchy does to women. That's what is happening, whether we call it women-led development in the nation or whatever. It's all a kind of eyewash at the moment. But the narrative is again going against women. Now, in this case, I don't want to buy the argument, and I don't think, and you are absolutely right, that it doesn't add up. Because, if it is premeditated and he's been trying to and planned to kill the daughter, then police has to of course investigate. We are only making our own conjectures. We are not really we don't know the real situation. But then if he was planning to kill her, then what are the evidence? Who knows? I mean, like, did mother know about it? Did anybody knew that he's so deeply angry with her?
Okay.
For neighbors and people saying it. And secondly also that this whole rage story comes. I've seen cases in UP and other places where when they police is kind of in some way or the other siding with, as you say, affluent, as you say, they are from a very good family.
Yeah.
All that adds up to say that police is trying to somehow or the other be on the side of the father. And
Can I ask Yashwadhan Azad, is it possible that the father is covering up for somebody else, that maybe somebody else was the actual perpetrator or the actual accused, and the father may be just covering up for that person? Is it possible, Yashwadhan Azad? I mean, for the longest time we thought the same of the Arushi case.
As of now, I don't think so. One of the reasons why the mother is not giving a statement is that how can she give a statement against her own husband? And the other thing is, let me tell you one thing. In the middle class families, especially in the urban areas and very polished urban areas like Haryana and Sushant Lok, there is a serious crisis in the society. For example, a woman who's 25 years old and is earning pretty well, running a tennis academy, will be making decisions about her own life. She'll be going out at 9 o'clock, she'll be coming back at 12 o'clock, she'll be spending money on her bank account, signing checks. This is something which is very unreal to a father who's used to lording about everything in the house. Mind you, the brother was living downstairs, and this kind of thing, the brother would have definitely noticed, and he should have been one to save the life of the niece, to inform the police or somebody. Unfortunately, these things are not coming up, but there's a serious crisis. Technically, that woman should have also lived alone. If a young man was there, his wife would have said, "Bhai, hum to alag rahenge, hum to nahi rahenge tumhare maa baap ke saath." So there is a lot of churning going on in this society, but the values are the same.
Okay.
So this system is under attack.
All right, Yashwadhan Azad, Ranjana Kumari and Ms. Rekha Sharma, thank you very much for joining us. I mean, our hearts go out to the family of the victim. Like I said, it's unfathomable that a father would do this to his own daughter. Whatever the reasoning is, whatever the rationale is, and at least, in this case, even the one that's been put forth by the police seems unbelievable on the face of it. Let's see what else they can come up with in the questioning. I want to move on to the next story, and that is actor-comedian Kapil Sharma. He's opened a cafe in Canada, and that was targeted on Thursday by Khalistani extremists. Caps Cafe, that is Kapil Sharma's debut in the restaurant industry. It's located in Surrey in British Columbia. An 8-second video that was posted on social media shows about 10 gunshots being fired from a handgun towards this restaurant. Shortly after the incident, Harjeet Singh, alias Luddy, or the Luddy Gang, he's part of the banned terror group Babbar Khalsa International, claimed responsibility for the shooting, saying that this was in retaliation for comments that Kapil Sharma made about Nihang Sikhs and what they wear during a television show that was hosted by him. While the Canadian police have said that it was investigating all angles of the crime, this attack seems to be again one among many that have been orchestrated by a well-oiled Khalistani machinery. Now, we decode the presence of these various Khalistani gangs in Canada who've almost had like a free run. Let's listen in to this deep dive.
First and foremost is the Babbar Khalsa International, or BKI. It is the most active ISI-backed Khalistani group in Canada. BKI is also responsible for ideological radicalization, funding campaigns and violent plots. That includes the 1985 Air India bombing and the recent Caps Cafe attack claimed by BKI linked Harjeet Singh Luddy. The World Sikh Organization is another organization posing as a human rights advocacy group. But WSO has already been flagged by Indian intelligence for promoting secessionism. also for shielding BKI activities under the guise of civil liberties. Its leaders maintain indirect links with ISI-funded campaigns. The International Sikh Youth Federation is another organization banned in India and the UK. But the ISYF maintains sleeping cells in Ontario and British Columbia. They have reactivated sleeper assets with ISI assistance for propaganda and overseas mobilization. And then we have Gurpatwant Singh Pannu's Sikhs for Justice. Soon after the firing at Kapil Sharma's cafe, SFJ has released a video warning Kapil Sharma to take Hindutva money back to India. It goes on to question Kapil Sharma's patriotism with pointed questions like why is Kapil Sharma, who chants Mera Bharat Mahan and openly endorses Modi's Hindutva, investing in Canada instead of Modi's India? Although banned in India, SFJ continues to push the ISI-promoted referendum 2020 agenda in Canada. SFJ, suspected of receiving encrypted instructions and funds routed through Pakistan and Gulf intermediaries.
Now, there are many challenges for Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney if he actually intends to mend ties with India. And the biggest of them all happens to be the sort of free run that's been given to these Khalistani separatists. There have been increasing hits on celebrities, from AP Dhillon to Gippy Grewal. They've all been targeted in the recent past. In fact, Kapil Sharma's cafe attack is the fourth such incident targeting Punjabi artists in just the last couple of years. Last month, Canada's top intelligence agency had officially acknowledged that Khalistani extremists are operating from within its borders, even as it accused India of meddling in espionage. Repeated attacks, pro-Khalistani speeches and tableaux all point towards a very laissez-faire approach by the Canadian administration towards these pro-Khalistan elements. And the biggest thorn in ties seems to be the unsubstantiated allegation which Justin Trudeau made a couple of years ago against India and Indian agents in what he called the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. I want to go across to Daniel Boardman, Canadian journalist who is joining us. So when Mr. Carney became Prime Minister, it was almost like, this is a reset moment in ties. I think both the Prime Ministers met a few weeks ago and they said, let's try and see if we can put some of this bitter past behind us. But the proof of the pudding is really in the eating. I mean, is there anything you're learning, Daniel, about this particular attack and whether or not the Canadian police are doing a serious job of investigating this and finding out who is behind it and possibly apprehending some of them?
That's a question that many Canadians ask every day on not just issues of Khalistani violence, but most crimes in the country. There's been a sense of sort of malaise, and there's talk of this being an anarcho-tyranny where, there are two-tier justice system and all that talk. There was significant attention paid to this yesterday. So I'm willing to give the authorities, because it is a new regime, it is a Mark Carney government. The mayor of Surrey was on the ground yesterday, and some MPs and MLAs showed up. So this has got some attention. Will there be an arrest? That's a whole other thing. Because again, you have Hardeep Singh Lodhi taking. We have a man who's actually taken responsibility for this. So it seems to me that we have a prime suspect. That the man who said, "I did this. Here's my motivation for doing this." That would be a good place to start in terms of arrests or some sort of statement. Am I 100% confident that the Canadian police are going to do anything here? No, because you have the World Sikh Organization, you have Boz News, you have the entire Khalistani network trying to spin the story into sort of, oh, this isn't an isolated incident, it's part of a wider extortion gang. And the narrative they're running with is this is actually a wider extortion racket run by Lawrence Bishnoi at the behest of Narendra Modi. That's their current talking point for everything.
But tell me, Daniel, with the previous Justin Trudeau government, there was a political compulsion, if you will, because they were dependent on some of these really extreme elements, Jagmeet Singh and the NDP. The new Prime Minister, Mr. Carney, is not politically dependent on some of these extremist, Khalistani elements. So what then is his political motivation not to take action, or is it just that the police, don't take these things seriously enough?
It's a lot of things. So you're right. I think his political motivations. Listen, I think if Mark Carney could snap his fingers and the person who did this would go to jail, I think he would do that. If the Justin Trudeau Jagmeet Singh people could snap their fingers and send the victims to jail, they would, right? That's where we're kind of at. So you have this, is Surrey Police clean? Is Surrey Police, are they loyal to the Canadian Constitution, or there are Khalistanis inside Surrey Police who will cover this up? We don't know that. Will the RCMP, handle this properly? You're right to point out that Mark Carney does not have the same political compulsions. He is not dominated by Khalistanis in Parliament. He is not propped up by Jagmeet Singh, who himself is ideologically Khalistani. So for him, I think it would behoove him to solve this crime. There's the other thing where he has bigger problems now because he has the Americans threatening tariffs coming up, and Parliament's curling in recess. There hasn't been much Parliament since in this Mark Carney era. He's kind of just been ruling by fiat, and he's kind of treating it like he's the CEO of the Company of Canada, not so much the Prime Minister of the House of Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
the reaction still needs to be seen. I'm willing to give 48, 72 hours before I jump the gun and say, oh, this is just business as usual, which is not doing business. But I hope I'm wrong.
Okay, Daniel Boardman, for the moment, thank you very much for joining us and putting that issue into perspective for our viewers. I want to move on to the other story that we're tracking. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval today slammed foreign media and its reporting on Operation Sindur and said that they had failed to show any damage to any Indian structure or institution or military installation, but images from 13 air bases that were damaged in India's precision strikes against Pakistan have surfaced. There have been, mobile footage, there's been satellite footage, there's been all kinds of video proof of those 10 or 11 air bases of Pakistan that were targeted. Hailing India's precision in hitting its targets in the crisscross of Pakistan on the 7th of May, Doval said that the armed forces hit nowhere else except specifically these targets. India struck 9 terror camps or terror installations deep inside Pakistani territory as the armed forces avenged the Pahalgam terror attack, which killed 26 civilians on the 22nd of April in Kashmir. In India's retaliatory strikes, over 100 terrorists were killed. Doval lauded the indigenous weapons that were used during Operation Sindur and said that India has to develop more such technology, whether it's air defense radars or whether it is missiles like the BrahMos. Now, India's military superiority was established during Operation Sindur. In the aftermath of it, the BrahMos missiles struck very high-value targets deep inside Pakistani territory, sometimes 200-300 kilometers inside Pakistani territory, without being detected. India downed Pakistan's CH-4 drones with extreme precision. Along with the BrahMos, the indigenously developed Akash surface-to-air missile air defense systems also played a key role in thwarting Pakistani drone attacks, which targeted Indian assets. India's airborne early warning and control systems, the AWACS Netra, which are known as the eyes in the sky, acted as an aerial control room for these missions. The Rafales, which China and Pakistan falsely boasted about downing, were critical in India's operations as well.
We have to develop our indigenous technology. Mention was made here of Sindur. We are really proud of it, not for necessarily what people perceive, that how much of an indigenous content was there. We are proud of it, that some of the best systems that worked, whether it was our BrahMos systems, whether it was our integrated air control and command systems, whether it was our radars, whether it was the whole list of it that was being done at the battlefield surveillance about the position out there. We decided to have 9 terrorist targets in the crisscross of Pakistan. It was not only the border area something, which we thought were there this way. We missed none. We hit nowhere else except that. And it is also not that this was a very, it was precise to the point where we knew who is where. Entire operation was started at 5 minutes past 1 and was over at 28 minutes past 1. 23 minutes. Thereafter, a lot of things are said that this thing, foreign press and all these things, they said Pakistan did that and this. You tell me one photograph, one imagery, which shows any Indian damage being done, even a glass pane having been thrown. I don't know, only our forces will be knowing what's happening in this thing, but I am just telling, they brought out photographs, they wrote this thing, the New York Times put out this thing. Only imagine they said 13 air bases of Pakistan now and now, before 10th May and after 10th May.
A visibly frustrated US President Donald Trump is all set to make a major announcement vis-a-vis Russia. There's speculation whether it's about defensive weapons to Ukraine, whether there's going to be more sanctions on Russia. He's, of course, reiterated his anger and criticism of Russian President Vladimir Putin over the continued Russian attacks on Ukraine, including on big cities like Kiev. That has stepped up in the last couple of months or so. Trump has also said that he expects the US Senate to pass a tougher Russia sanctions bill. The question, though, is from someone he said he admires as a tough-as-nails leader, will Trump actually impose those sanctions on Russia and on Vladimir Putin? I dig a little deeper. Russia pounded Ukraine's capital Kiev in a deadly multi-hour-long assault early Thursday, just hours before a meeting between top American and Russian diplomats. Ukrainian officials said that Kiev was the main target of the intense overnight bombardment, which killed at least 2 people and wounded more than 24. A cloud of smoke was left hanging over the city Thursday morning. In the attack, Russia launched 18 missiles and around 400 drones on Ukraine during a massive combined strike that lasted for nearly 10 hours. And this is not the first time. There have been a number of such aerial attacks in the last few weeks. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has expressed deep frustration with Russia over the lack of progress in peace talks over Ukraine. He's, in a sense, echoing President Donald Trump's increasing criticism and frustration with Russian President Vladimir Putin over his escalation of this war. Marco Rubio met with Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Thursday evening on the sidelines of a regional ASEAN meeting in Malaysia. The Trump administration has been trying to negotiate a settlement to stop the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but Russia has been resistant to those ceasefire talks. Rubio noted that the recent large-scale Russian attacks on Ukrainian civilians was contrary to what the American president wanted, and he wanted peace and he wanted a ceasefire. He said that the Trump administration was working with the US Congress to shape legislation that could lead to more sanctions against Russia.
Look, the president's been pretty clear. He's disappointed and frustrated that there's not been more flexibility on the Russian side to bring about an end to this conflict. We hope that can change. And we're going to continue to stay involved where we see opportunities to make a difference.
When asked about a recent pause on American weapons meant for Ukraine, ordered by the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Rubio said that the halt was on certain types of ammunitions, certain types of arms, mainly defensive arms. He also said that the move by the Pentagon was because it made sense for the Defense Department to do a very limited review of the kind of weapons that were in the stockpile and the ones that are being given away to Ukraine. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump unleashed weeks of frustration with President Vladimir Putin of Russia over what he described as meaningless gestures towards peace. This came a day after Trump said that the United States would resume sending ammunition to Ukraine to help fend off Russia. The remarks from Trump were the harshest that he's made towards Putin since he was first elected president back in 2016. It came as an abrupt change in public posture towards the Russian leader after months of failing to forge peace in a conflict which Trump once said, certainly on the campaign trail, he said that he could resolve the Russia-Ukraine war in a single day. It's been almost 5 months now that he's been in office, and he's not been able to put in place a ceasefire.
I'm not happy with Putin. I can tell you that much right now, because he's killing a lot of people. And a lot of them are his soldiers and their soldiers, mostly. And it's now up to 7,000 a week, and I'm not happy with Putin. We get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
The US president's disenchantment with his Russian counterpart, along with more positive recent interactions that he's had with President Zelensky of Ukraine, appear to be driving his decision to resume sending some of the air defense interceptors as well as precision-guided missiles to Ukraine after their delivery had been halted last month. Now, it is as yet unclear how quickly the initial tranche of weapons which were held up in Poland will actually arrive in Ukraine and help Ukraine with its defensive posture. The decision to release these ammunitions was cheered on in Ukraine. Ukraine has suffered major Russian air attacks on Kiev as well as major other cities over the last few weeks. This decision came shortly after an hour-long phone call between Trump and Putin, which really did not yield any result. Trump has been growing increasingly frustrated with Putin in recent weeks. Trump's advisors have been saying that he believes that Putin is stringing him along. At the end of May, Trump indicated to reporters he might impose new sanctions on Russia, only for him to turn away from that just a few days after that. Meanwhile, Germany, France, Britain, and Italy have all publicly told President Donald Trump that new American sanctions could force President Putin to enter into serious negotiations about ending the war. They have also said that without these sanctions, Putin has been escalating and prolonging Russia's attacks in an attempt to break Ukraine's defenses. Trump has also said he's very strongly considering supporting a bipartisan bill in the US Senate that would impose severe sanctions on countries which purchase Russian oil. Those countries include India and China. Trump has long praised Putin as a tough-as-nails leader. He's been scornful of Zelensky. In fact, earlier this year, he scolded Zelensky in a remarkable encounter that unfolded live on television in the Oval Office. In fact, he called Zelensky insufficiently ungrateful for the American support in the war on Ukraine. Officials in Washington were worried that American bases in the region could be targeted, particularly if the United States joined in Israel's war against Iran and bombing Iran's nuclear sites. That would require more arms to defend American troops. Over the past couple of years, the Pentagon has sent more than $66 billion in weapons and ammunition and equipment to Ukraine. What Ukraine wants the most, though, are the Patriot interceptor missiles. These interceptors were particularly prized because they are one of the few weapons that Ukraine can use to knock down Russia's most advanced missiles. They've been critical weapons in Ukraine's struggling effort to hold off increasingly intense attacks from Russia. And now, Trump is likely to give them to Ukraine. I want to go across to Mr. Ben Hodges. He's the former commanding general of the United States Army with oversight in Europe. Thank you very much, Mr. Hodges, for speaking with us. I want to first start off by asking you about what happened between Israel and Iran in now what's being called the 12-day war. How do you view it? Because the United States got involved, it bombed those 3 nuclear locations, including in Fordo. The objective of that operation was to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Do you believe that that's been achieved sufficiently?
We don't know, actually, if it's been achieved. Of course, nobody wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon. It's not good for anybody in the region. But I have to say that I was impressed with the skill that the Air Force and the others, the U.S. Air Force, they executed the strike on the nuclear sites in Iran, which, of course, came on the heels of a lot of impressive work that Israel had done against Iranian air defense and so on. But that what matters the most is, did they accomplish the strategic objective? And I don't think we know. The president and the Secretary of Defense both very prematurely claimed that the sites had been obliterated and that they had accomplished the task. But the chairman of the Joint Chiefs was more sober and I think mature in saying, well, the assessment process takes a long time, especially on a target like this. And I don't think we will know how much damage was actually done until various intelligence agencies are able to use all the different sources to ascertain what capability still remains inside that mountain. And of course, it looks like there's some quantity of uranium that we don't know where it's at, that it may have been moved before the strike. So I think it would not be wise to say that the program has been stopped. It clearly will have been delayed or disrupted for some time.
But now there seems to be what many are calling an emerging Trump doctrine, as it were. He wants to project himself as the peacemaker president, which is why, even in the context of the Iran-Israel war, the 12-day war, America just entered in, they bombed those 3 nuclear sites, and that was it. America was then out. So President Trump says that, look, he just comes in when it is required. He doesn't want to get stuck in these protracted wars. He just wants to project himself as the peacemaker president. And in the 2 ongoing wars, which he sort of inherited, if you will, the Russia-Ukraine war and the Israel-Hamas war, there doesn't seem to be any definitive end or closure anytime near.
Yeah. So this is the label he would love to have because it appeals to part of his base that is tired of the United States being in Afghanistan for 20 years and Iraq for 20 years and without achieving the outcome that multiple presidents would have wanted. Of course, your formulation that he inherited these wars is not entirely accurate. That's what he would like for people to believe, that these are problems that belong, that are the responsibility of his predecessor. But of course, he is his own predecessor. President Trump was in office for 4 years after the war in Ukraine had already started back in 2014. And then, of course, he was the president that made this deal with the Taliban in Afghanistan that led to the collapse of the Afghan government. And every president inherits the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East. Having said that, I would not say that there's a Trump doctrine emerging, because there is no consistency anywhere. I mean, it's very difficult these days for anyone to accurately predict what President Trump is going to do in these different regions, because, one, he is mercurial and he's driven not by things like protecting sovereignty or those kinds of values, but instead more about use of power for leverage, tariffs, and frankly, material benefits. And
but
it also.
I do want to
listen, please.
I do want to ask you, Mr. Hodges, in the context of the India-Pakistan conflict that happened between these 2 countries back in May, the 4-day war between the 7th and 10th of May, and President Trump, has been going around claiming that he was the one who mediated, he was the one who sort of brought about the ceasefire between these 2 nuclear neighbors. And there has been a degree of pushback, a degree of concern here in India, certainly, that that's not quite the case. That was bilaterally negotiated between India and Pakistan, and that there was no third party involved, leave alone the United States or the President of the United States. How would you speak to that concern? And why is President Trump going on and on, repeating this, going on telling everybody that he was the one who brought the ceasefire, even though India says that that's not quite the case? Why is he sort of doubling down on that?
Yeah. Okay, so number one, this is for his own selfish purposes. He openly talks about wanting the Nobel Peace Prize, and so I think that's why he's trying to take credit for bringing about a ceasefire or conclusions to wars or dangerous situations between India and Pakistan, in the Middle East, in Africa. He thought he was going to just walk in and do that between Ukraine and Russia, and obviously he didn't. So I think part of this is to build up some sort of campaign to get credit for this, and because I think he desperately wants the Nobel Peace Prize, mainly because President Obama earned the peace or received the Nobel Peace Prize, which was also premature. But I think this is what drives him. And I've never respected somebody that wanted or sought personal recognition like that. I would never have given an award to an officer who sought a higher level of recognition for his conduct in combat. And I think it's inappropriate for the President of the United States to do this. Part of our problem on all of these questions, though, is that we do not have a normal national security apparatus anymore. You've got, he fired the national security advisor, who was probably, Mr. Waltz, who was probably the most competent person in his administration. And now you've got the Secretary of State, who is wearing multiple hats, including national security advisor on top of being the Secretary of State. You have a Secretary of Defense who is way out of his depth. And so you've got a mess in terms of national security processes and messaging and interagency coordination. It's hard to know exactly what he's going to do or why he does it.
All right, Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, thank you very much for joining us and putting those issues into perspective for our viewers. Thank you very much indeed for your time and your perspective.
Co-presented by. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
And the biggest of them all happens to be the sort of free run that's been given to these Khalistani separatists. There have been increasing hits on celebrities, from AP Dhillon to Gippy Grewal. They've all been targeted in the recent past. In fact, Kapil Sharma's cafe attack is the fourth such incident targeting Punjabi artists in just the last couple of years. Last month, Canada's top intelligence agency had officially acknowledged that Khalistani extremists are operating from within its borders, even as it accused India of meddling in espionage. Repeated attacks, pro-Khalistani speeches and tableaux all point towards a very laissez-faire approach by the Canadian administration towards these pro-Khalistan elements. And the biggest thorn in ties seems to be the unsubstantiated allegation which Justin Trudeau made a couple of years ago against India and Indian agents in what he called the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. I want to go across to Daniel Boardman, Canadian journalist who is joining us. So when Mr. Carney became Prime Minister, it was almost like, this is a reset moment in ties. I think both the Prime Ministers met a few weeks ago and they said, let's try and see if we can put some of this bitter past behind us. But the proof of the pudding is really in the eating. I mean, is there anything you're learning, Daniel, about this particular attack and whether or not the Canadian police are doing a serious job of investigating this and finding out who is behind it and possibly apprehending some of them?
That's the question that many Canadians ask every day on not just issues of Khalistani violence, but most crimes in the country. There's been a sense of sort of, malaise, and there's talk of this being an anarcho-tyranny where, there are two-tier justice system and all that talk. There was significant attention paid to this yesterday, so I'm willing to give the authorities, because it is a new regime, it is a Mark Carney government. The mayor of Surrey was on the ground yesterday, and some MPs and MLAs showed up. So this has got some attention. Will there be an arrest? That's a whole other thing. Because again, you have Hardeep Singh Lodi taking. We have a man who's actually taken responsibility for this. So it seems to me that we have a prime suspect. That the man who said, "I did this. Here's my motivation for doing this." That would be a good place to start in terms of arrests or some sort of statement. Am I 100% confident that the Canadian police are going to do anything here? No, because you have the World Sikh Organization, you have Boz News, you have the entire Khalistani network trying to spin the story into sort of, oh, this isn't an isolated incident, it's part of a wider extortion gang. And the narrative they're running with is this is actually a wider extortion racket run by Lawrence Bishnoi at the behest of Narendra Modi. That's their current talking point for everything.
But tell me, Daniel, with the previous Justin Trudeau government, there was a political compulsion, if you will, because they were dependent on some of these really extreme elements, Jagmeet Singh and the NDP. The new Prime Minister, Mr. Carney, is not politically dependent on some of these extremist, Khalistani elements. So what then is his political motivation not to take action, or is it just that the police, don't take these things seriously enough?
It's a lot of things. So you're right. I think his political motivations. Listen, I think if Mark Carney could snap his fingers and the person who did this would go to jail, I think he would do that. If the Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh people could snap their fingers and send the victims to jail.
Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to the Hard Facts. I'm Anand Narasimhan. A completely unnecessary political tussle transpired after Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Singh Mann ridiculed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to quote-unquote small nations. However, the inappropriate statements were promptly met with a vigorous counter from the central government via the Ministry of External Affairs that described Bhagwant Mann's comments without naming him as irresponsible, I quote, and regrettable, unquote. Bhagwant Mann mocked Samman to the Prime Minister and said, and I quote, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has gone somewhere. I think it is Ghana. He is going to be back and he is welcome. God knows which countries he keeps visiting. Magnesia, Galvasia, Tarvesia. He does not stay in a country with 140 crore people. He travels to countries where the population is 10,000 and Gandhi is getting the highest awards there.